All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the fifth episode of the Rainier Strength Pod. My guest today is Shawn Frankl. He has a multi-ply total of 2715 with a 1060 squat, an 875 bench, and a 700 plus deadlift. Also, to this day, 16 years, he has held a world record at 198 in the multiply with a 2630 total, still standing to this day, which is absolutely wild. Shawn also is an accomplished bodybuilder and gym owner. Shawn Frankl, how you doing?
Great, great. Thanks for having me, man. It's my pleasure.
Yeah, of course, man. So your introduction into powerlifting, how did that start? Did you start in the equipment? Did you start raw?
Yeah, I just started out raw, pretty young. Um, Not really knowing what I was doing like everybody, I think. You know, Now there's just so much information out there. So like for anybody getting into it, it's probably the opposite. It's like an overload. It's like, man, there's so many people doing so many different ways of training. It's like which one would you pick? But when I was doing it, I mean, it was like looking at a bodybuilder magazine, and it was probably not even true what was in there, what people did. And then I got with Powerlifting USA magazines, and then you could kind of get with, some programs that people were doing, but, you know, didn't really know what I was doing. And technique wise, form, everything was completely off. But yeah, started raw. Yep.
Did you sustain any injuries from that? Any just like from going raw and like kind of being off in technique or anything like that? Did you?
No, no, not really. Um, yeah, I mean, my technique was off, so I was probably too, I wasn't lifting anything heavy. I mean, really, nothing heavy enough to get hurt.
Yep, yep.
Uh,
And you came from the Big Iron Gym, which was also mentioned in West Side versus the World. And we have a lot of. All right, so we had some technical difficulties there. Of course, it happens from time to time. But we were just going to get into Big Iron, the legacy of Big Iron. As I was saying before, Westside has so much documentation, whether it be through the documentary itself, people that are still around that were training. But with Rick Hussey and Big Iron, there's not as much media, at least that I've found, even through the Powerlifting USA's and other media outlets. How was the atmosphere at Big Iron?
I mean, the atmosphere is, I feel a lot of what it was about. It was, there was a lot of us. I mean, there were a lot of high level lifters, and it was the competition between us. I mean, in a good way, it's like we wanted to push each other, but like everybody obviously wants to be the strongest. So, but with support, it's like you wanted each other to do well. But it was like every day you didn't really have a exact certain number maybe you were going up to. It was based off of how things were moving that day. He watched like the bar speed, and you basically wanted to keep it moving good so he'd keep giving you more. So like we fed off of each other, and everybody obviously wanted to be the heaviest lifter. So
Yep, yep.
it was competitive every workout. You wanted to do as much as you possibly could, whether if it was like, we'd sometimes, like if we were squatting, we would a lot of times single up and maybe double down, or maybe use reverse bands, or we used a lot of reverse bands at Big Iron with like squatting. um Benching, it was more like really heavy board presses, and then we might do like a overload with in a power rack with reverse bands benching for tricep stuff. And deadlift, it was more like, I don't know, kind of me and Al Caslow kind of came up with, I don't know if you remember who Al Caslow is, but he was 165. That was really awesome. But he really came up with the deadlift program, and it really worked. And it was more volume, like volume belt strength on deadlift. But we used a lot of different, depending on kind of where your weak spot was in the pull, whether it was getting off the ground, locking out, mid range. We just used different tools to strengthen wherever your weak point was. And it was based off of more percentage every week. So, but everything else with Rick, wasn't really percentage based. It was how things were moving.
Yeah. And with that 2630 total at 198, nonetheless, I mean, there's a lot of records that are broken very quickly, whether people are coming up and shipping them or just lifters are getting incredibly stronger. I mean, to have a world record for 16 years is insane, to say the least. At that time, how were you training? What did your training look like during that world record?
I mean, at that time, it was kind of towards the last couple years of my career, I guess. So I'd been getting beat up because I was handling heavier weight, pound for pound for my body. I was handling, I mean, that training cycle. It's like I squatted. We didn't have like a wave like you have now. Like
Yep.
we would work up and come down. We would work with almost like what you wanted to hit at the meet, at least from what your opener was every single week. So if it was like you're training like a 12-week training cycle, or you're going to feel that way in some shape or form, whether it was reverse bands or whatever, you're going to feel that opener for sure every single week. So like, if you're opening at 1,000 pounds, you're going to feel that for 12 weeks. Every week, you're going to be feeling 1,200 or 1,000 at some shape or form. You might start with reverse bands feeling 1,000, but then by the end of it, he would like you to be doing that number with your straps down because it's an opener. He'd like you to be able to have your straps down, hit your opener. And then when we put our straps up, he figured it would be about 50 pounds you could get out of the straps up. And it was different for every person, but it's like as you got the suit and the gear down, you'd get more out of it if you knew how to use it correctly. So everything was a tool. We're going to get strong without it, without with the straps down, using the bands, and then we would put straps up, and that should instantly add something. So there's kind of like in some shape or form there was somewhere to go. So we did a lot of that on our squat days in that training cycle, but we never had deloads. Like, I'm not saying that this is the right way to
Damn.
do it. So, we learned a lot, but it obviously worked. And I think a lot of different things work, but I think some things would allow you to maybe have a longer career without injury versus just, we just didn't train that way. We just trained heavy every single
Yeah.
week, you know?
Yeah.
So it kind of beat you up. So like, I was down to like getting bigger, longer injuries that would take me a little bit time to come back from those last couple years. And so like that like the year before that, I like tore an oblique, growing, things like, so like I'd have to like come back from that, a shoulder injury. So it was more like I was trying to more peak for just like that pro-am that Westside would put that pro-am meet on. And that's the one I wanted to make sure I was healthy enough for, because that one you can make some money. So, and everybody was there. So that's one you wanted to be ready for. So,
Yeah.
but yeah.
And you heard Dave Tate had talked about like we didn't even put on our bench shirt until we got to the meet. Hopefully it fit. And then Chuck Vogelpohl also said, we didn't wear equipment much. I think that was one of our downfalls. How frequently did you guys wear equipment in training?
We use them every single week, every week. 30 was a little bit different. Theirs was more like if I can build my raw strength up, when I put my gear on, it should carry over. And to a degree, I get that, but not if you have the gear 100% figured out. If you're not a professional in the gear, you know how to work that gear 100% to a T, then it's not going to carry over the same. Because I was friends with a lot of those guys, and it wouldn't necessarily, it would carry over from what you did maybe the last meet, but you're leaving too much, on the table because you're still not getting the 100% of what you could have got out of the gear. Well, why just try and do it with the raw strength when you probably should figure the gear out and have it down second nature, like it's part of your body, and then build your raw strength up, is how I look at it. So, obviously I trained raw stuff like on different movements and different things after I got done with, like, if we were squatting, after squats, we would do everything obviously raw and do things that would help your squat. Same thing with bench and deadlift, and same thing. Like all the accessory work, we did a lot of raw stuff. But I mean, you have to know how to drive this car with this much power, and you got to have it 100% down, you to know what all that feels like. So
Yeah,
that's
it's like
how Rick always would say, we're gonna practice how we're gonna do it in the meet, because that's how we're gonna do it in the meet. So we got to have it down 100%, and then we'll work on the weaker points. We'll still work on those in different ways, but you got to have that gear down to a
yeah.
T.
Yeah. So you pull up to, you pull up to a race and you've only been driving in third gear this entire time. Once you hit fifth, you're not going to know what to do. You're going to crash, right? So it's like you
Yes.
have to practice like you play, you know. And I
Yep.
see that a lot with a lot of great lifters like yourself. When you hit that 1060 squat, what were some of the crucial accessory movements that you utilized after the squat?
I mean, we would do different things like, I would do, obviously like leg press, hip sled, but it was a lot of core work, some like good morning stuff, your heavy weighted abs. Honestly, it was like weighted core stuff. So, yeah, good mornings, heavy abs, sit ups with 100-pound plates, things for your hip flexors. We did lunges, with straight bar, stuff like that. But I mean, your core has to be able to handle the weight. It's not like necessarily your legs can press the weight if you're like on a leg press, but your core has to be able to handle that pressure to keep everything in that groove. So it's a lot your hips and your core. So those are the things that we kind of worked on. But
Yeah,
like but we had just done a lot of heavy squatting because we squatted heavy every single week. So like your central nervous system would get shocked every week because we trained heavy every week.
yep.
So that was a big thing.
Yeah. And I think that plays into, again, like the meat conditioning, like conditioning your central nervous system to handle that load during the meet. I see a lot of that from like Jimmy Cole does a lot of that. I mean, he's
Yeah.
heavy every freaking week, whether it's boards, whether it's floating, floor press, whatever, it's heavy every single week. And once he gets to the meet, his CNS is like, we've done this before. We know what we're doing.
Yes.
You know what I
Yep.
mean?
Yep. Nothing feels any different.
Exactly. And on open powerlifting, you have a 551 raw bench, which is freaking good. That's a high bench. What were some of the things you used to build that 551 raw bench?
I mean, really, I wasn't even trying to build my when I did that 551 raw bench, I was done powerlifting. I wasn't even powerlifting anymore when I did that. That was that was for a relentless meet for raising money for the kids in
Yeah.
Minnesota there. So I was done powerlifting. I was just working out like a bodybuilder really back then. But I mean, it probably was just obviously just stuff that carried over from when I was benching heavy in a shirt. Cause I mean, when you're handling 900 plus in a shirt, I mean, 550 whatever is not heavy raw. But I mean, I would work up to, more like 650 like off of raw boards before I'd put my shirt on. So like even when I was training in a shirt, I would hit, around 500 or a little more to my chest. And then I'd hit like a 585, maybe a 635 off of a two board, anywhere from 635, 655, and then I put my shirt on. So then I'm putting my shirt on more like over 700 starting, right away. So it wasn't like I'm putting my bench shirt on at 500 pounds, like I never did that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think one thing that I've seen variances in over the years is a lot of people mix up meet day, like nutrition, hydration. Was that a thing for you? Did you plan out your nutrition when you were competing kind of to a T? Was it more just spotty kind of looking, or was it really something that was methodical and planned out even the day of the meet?
No, I mean, like during the training cycle, obviously I just tried to get as much protein in. I ate good food, as far as like, chicken and like, rice, good carbs. I ate good food, but on top of it, I would just eat almost anything I wanted. But I wanted to eat quality and then I just added on top of it. I didn't know nutrition like I know it now. I didn't really have a clue on nutrition, honestly. I just knew what everybody would tell you is, oh, you got to have enough protein, all that. So I didn't know crap on that.
Yeah.
But for me, during like to put my weight back on, that's where I knew what I had to do to put my weight back on. That I had to know, like as far as, like I knew like for how much weight I was cutting and then going through a training cycle. So like for instance, like if if I cut to 198 in one training cycle, the next training cycle, after going through a whole training cycle, my body would be a little bit denser. So I almost had to be another pound or two lighter to be able to make that same cut about the same how hard it was to make that cut because you're a little denser. And then to put the weight back on, obviously you got to know how to cut the weight properly. And then, water loading, using, some, what you call it, something to help you get a Lasix or whatever you're going
Mm,
to use. And then you got
yeah.
to know how many milligrams, because your body, everybody's body's different. So like if you took 40 to 80, maybe milligrams of Lasix, you might be peeing like crazy. Me, I had to take about 3 for my body to really like get moving. It just it just didn't work like that for me. I had to always seems like I always had to take more. But like you got to know that. You can't just jump
Yeah.
in there and start taking like, "Oh, I'm going to start with 100 or
Yeah.
80." Everybody's going to be different. So you got to find out for you what that is. And then kind of know like what time do I need to start it depending on when I'm going to make weight. So you don't want to take it too early, but you kind of have to have it on a timely fashion of when you want when weigh-ins are, when to start. So for me, I would start like if I was weighing in the next morning, I would start my cut at about noon is when I'd start taking my Lasix. And then I'd want throughout the day, I would want to be peeing and getting it off as much as I can just throughout the Lasix. And then when I wasn't really going anymore after increasing the Lasix, and then at that point is when I'd have to start sitting in the sauna and start doing intervals that way to get the rest of it off, you know.
Yeah.
I- and then putting the weight back on obviously is just as important. And I would always have to be about 2 pounds heavier than when I started my cut because it's not like real weight. And then I would have to like I would go work out because you're putting all this fluid in your body. So I'd do a couple IV bags. As soon as I made weight, I'd do a couple IV bags. I would obviously eat a lot of salty, high sodium food, but you don't want all of it to just sit in your stomach. It needs to fill out in your muscles, especially as a geared lifter. None of your gear is going to fit the same if you don't get it through your whole body, your legs even and everything. So like after I ate and got some fluids in me, I would want to go move around and I would actually go do a little workout to try and pump it into my muscles. And then obviously every couple hours I was eating and drinking like all night long until I went to bed. And then I'd usually finish off before I go to bed and I'd eat it like a couple cans of chicken broth. And there's like almost 1,000 milligrams of sodium in each can. So I would eat a couple cans of those right at the end and then do some dark matter with it before I
Yeah.
went to bed. And that's what I would do to like try and fill all my muscles back out, put everything in my muscles so my gear would fit right.
Yeah. Did you notice any side effects as far as with your weight fluctuations? Did you notice your numbers going down at all? Because I've done some severe cuts myself and I've definitely messed up a few where my lifts have just tanked. I felt great the day of the meet. I put like 25 pounds back on, but I don't know, I performed like trash. It was just due to a bad cut. Did you ever notice anything like that?
Only if I didn't prepare myself right. Well, that one time I went to Finland and this was crazy because I went to Chicago to qualify for the Arnold and I bombed out. So the next week you could qualify in Finland and it's the only other way you could get to the Arnold. So the next week I flew out to Finland and I just did the cut the week before. So I wasn't really prepared. My plan obviously wasn't to do this twice in a row.
Yep.
So it's like I just got all my weight back on. And then a couple of days later, I'm going to Finland. By the time I got there and whatnot, I mean, like I had not been planning it. So like I'd been eating everything and whatnot. So that was kind of a miserable cut. So like when I finally got to Finland and I got to the hotel, I didn't even get inside and Becca was there and she's like, "We got to go weigh you in right now." And I'm like, I can't weigh in right now. Like I'm way over and I haven't even prepped myself. I haven't water loaded. I haven't done nothing. I just ate like barbecue in the airport. So I was
Yeah.
not ready. I didn't obviously didn't say that, but so instantly we went right to weigh-ins and obviously I was like 17 pounds over. So I didn't tell them how far off I was. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, I got to go sit in the sauna. So that time was miserable because I did it all in the sauna. Didn't have the time to do any of it right. Didn't water load. Didn't take any Lasix, diuretics. Just went just straight the whole time, and it took me until late that night, to even make it, and I made it, but it was miserable. So, I didn't have enough. Probably I should have done like a whole nother IV bag. I didn't have time to go to the grocery store, get all my stuff I needed to put it on properly, and it was terrible. But I mean, I did okay in the meet, but I didn't do what I could have done, but I did okay. But I remember like my head was just killing me in the meet. Like I just felt terrible. I mean, I really didn't perform well
Yeah.
like I should have. But I mean, I did perform well, like what people would think, but it wasn't near what I should have done. But it got me into the Arnold, and that was the goal.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. You've had a lot of crazy lifts over the years. What would you say if you had to put a pinpoint on your favorite lift, whether it was in the gym and a meet, what would you say was your favorite all time?
My favorite lift. I mean, my favorite lift obviously is probably going to be one of my heavier ones, I suppose. I don't know, probably squat. I squatted over 1100 one workout, and it was just like one weekend I was like talking to Brian Carroll on the phone, and how like I've squatted 1,000 several times, and I'm like, why aren't I squatting more? Like, I think I'm getting complacent with squatting just a little over 1,000. I probably could squat 1,100 if my brain just if I push myself a little. So I was like, I was talking to him like on a Friday night, and I said, well, I'm squatting 1,100 tomorrow because we squatted on Saturday. I'm like, there's no reason why I shouldn't be doing it. What's the big difference of 1,050 and 1,100? It's not that big a difference if I can control it. So I remember I squatted like, I don't know if it was 1105 or whatever it was, but I squatted 1,100 the next day. It was just changing things in my brain to um, know that you could do it, I guess. I think our brain stops us from doing a lot of things. And if everybody else was doing it, you probably could do it too, right? So why I would get frustrated with myself, and I would have a argument with myself in my own head. And I'd be like, well, if everybody else was doing it, well, you'd be doing it. So why aren't you doing it right now? And then I'd think, yeah, that's right. So why aren't I doing it? I need to do it tomorrow. And then I would do stupid things. But a lot of it was my thinking is weird.
Well, it's hard too, because like it can become self-deprecating at a point, and you can start to
Yes.
like devalue yourself and get in your own head, and that's like a spiral in itself. And it's like, fuck, man, you just keep going and going down the spiral, and it's like a really
Yeah.
dangerous place to be mentally. It's hard to dig
And
yourself out of there.
and then I'd always think like towards the end, my last couple years of competing, it was like I'd already had the numbers, the records and stuff like that, but like I didn't want complacency to get me I just didn't want to be complacent with where I was at. And so, if you look at every sport, there's always somebody that's going to come up out of nowhere and just going to be the next guy in everything. So I started thinking, well, somebody's going to break all of these records because that's what always happens. So I probably need to be competing against that person that I really don't know who that is. So I better get my ass in gear because somebody's going to break them, and I need to make it hard for them to break them. So that is where my brain started to go. It didn't matter what I was lifting. I would tell myself somebody just is going to pass that because they're going to break it because it always happens. They're going to break it. And so I would motivate myself that way, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah. And you said you use a lot of reverse band work. Did you guys use anything else like chains? I know the weight releasers were kind of gimmicky, but anything like that?
We didn't really do any chains, really. We didn't work chains. It was reverse bands and heavy board presses. I mean, those were the kind of the staples of big iron where we just did a lot of heavy band work and like overload work, obviously. So
Yeah.
bands from the top,
Yep.
and then just heavy board presses from all just different boards, one board, two boards, three board. We didn't really go up to a four board, but it was like three board, two and ones, and then we did even a half board.
Yeah.
Some people needed, I think, to build their confidence that if you could use a half, you can touch, and
Yep.
touching obviously in a bench shirt's always like the big thing. If you have a shirt that's tight, and it builds confidence, probably if I can touch that, I can touch. But I mean, really, you just gotta. understand how the shirt works and understand how to touch. And that's what a lot of people don't know. But I could make the same. I mean, I could touch 500 if I wanted to in a shirt and use the same shirt for 900. Like I could use the same shirt. I just manipulate the shirt, you know? But that's what people think, they have to have a shirt for a certain number. Maybe that would have helped me bench even more if I did that, maybe. But I did it this way. But at
Yeah.
least I knew I was consistent and I was always going to get one in. And there's a lot of guys benching that, you know, they might hit one lift and they magically touched one time, but they couldn't do it every meet. And, you know, I like consistency, you know, like consistency is also tells somebody how good they are, you know, like, you know, in bench pressing, you know, that's why I was like, I always thought Ryan Canelli was one of the best benchers because he was consistent. If you were a betting guy, you know that guy's probably going to win most of the time because back then, during when I was doing it, he was consistent. He's always hitting big lifts. He wasn't going to bomb. He's going to get one in. And like, and that's, I consider him one of the best because of that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
think a
who
lot of
wants to
people,
watch? I mean, it's so boring to watch these guys bench when it looks ridiculous. It's like I can't even get my opener. I'm trying my opener 3 times and I fail. Who wants to even watch that? That sucks. I mean,
yeah.
how boring. Like, hey, I'm gonna go watch these guys are gonna bench this big weight. And like, oh, well, we got like 8 guys that got through it, and the rest of them didn't even make it. It's like, well, that sucks. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, and I think that comes down to like the time, taking the time to actually master the technical part of the shirt, and then also
Yeah.
like like you said, practice as you play, right? So I think a lot of
Yeah.
people aren't doing enough of that. I talked to Tony Carlino like a few weeks ago, and he was saying that he doesn't really like boards. He does a lot of floating presses, and I mean he's one of the best benchers in the world, you know. And he said he feels people rely on boards far too much nowadays, which definitely like I see a ton of board work on Instagram, YouTube, you know, and
Yeah.
things like that. So that
Yeah.
definitely makes sense. Did
And
you
I think
guys?
it just goes back to, do you actually know how to use this shirt? Because if you know how to use the shirt, then you can use things for tools. But if you don't know how to use the shirt in the first place, then you aren't really using boards for a tool because you're using them because you have a crutch. And you know I can hit these boards. And so like what he would be saying would be correct because they don't really know how to use the shirt yet. So you're just saying, "Oh, I'm really strong off of a two board and all these, but I can't touch anything in my chest." And yeah, you're abusing it. But if you know how to use the shirt and you can touch with anything, then you can build your strength up in those other areas, and then it's a tool.
How long do you feel like it took you to actually master the shirt? Where you were like, I got this. I can touch anything in this shirt. How long did that process take you?
I mean, it took a while just because um we had to learn from other people almost too. You know, like Jeff McVicker and some of those guys kind of had it down better. So we kind of learned from other people, honestly, like how to like flare your elbows out. Like everybody would like cut your elbows in right away. And once you would start cutting your elbows in, you'd just get within like an inch or two of like touching, but it would just stop and lock up. But Bill Crawford came out to Big Iron one time. And honestly, when he came out, that's when I really learned how to use that shirt. Bill would show us, like, you know, how to like cut your elbows because that'll lock the chest plate in. And then that's when you can you'd only want to cut your elbows in enough to come down enough to where the shirt stopped you. And then if it stopped you, pull a little bit more, and then you'd bring your elbows in just a little bit more. And then if you could keep coming down, you'd have, I mean, because you didn't go from your elbows all the way out to all the way in at once, like if you brought them all the way in, where do you have to go from there? You can't bring them in farther than all the way in. So like, why not use it more like a stairs? Like elbows are out, the shirt stops, bring your elbows in a little. I can bring it down a little bit more. And then it stops. Bring your elbows in a little bit more. And it comes down a little bit more. So you use it kind of almost like stairs instead of, nobody does that. They just go from, okay, cut now. Okay. And then what are you going to do when you can't touch and you're hovering there, you know?
Yeah.
So when he taught us how to do that, that for me really made sense and it changed the way I bench,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah, more of like a gradual process rather than just immediate tucking, and then it's like, well, now you can't go anywhere because your elbows are buried in your lats. So
Yeah.
that
So
sucks.
that really made sense when he taught us that.
Yeah. Did you guys utilize the box at all for box squats, or did you guys mainly do a lot of free squats?
Free squats. We never box squatted because, Rick is like, we're not box squatting in the meet. So why are you going to box squat here? You're not going to squat to a box. But I mean, I get it. You could use that for a tool. I'm not saying it's not a good thing. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying we just didn't do that. He wanted you to know where depth was on your own.
Yeah. Yeah. And you guys also, I mean, you yourself had a ton of muscle on your frame. I mean, and that showed when you stepped on the bodybuilding stage. A lot of that dense kind of muscle that only comes from training super heavy. Like we saw that with someone like Dorian Yates, Ronnie Coleman, these guys who just had a different type of muscle. What was that transition like for you from powerlifting to bodybuilding? Was there one that was harder than the other for you, or was it just a different discipline?
It's just completely different, especially like training wise. You're like, training wise, it's the opposite because in powerlifting, you want to move a weight from A to B in the most explosive way that you can. In bodybuilding, you want the tension to be on your muscles the whole entire time, and you want to do it until you just almost fail. So, like powerlifting, you never want to fail. Bodybuilding training, you want to fail every set. So, complete different.
Yeah.
But I kind of trained more like a power builder, so I still did a lot of power movements, and I would do obviously not singles. I would do like, still maybe sets of 5 and whatever for heavyweight so you can keep the density, but then I would transition into, let's do heavier sets of 15 to 20, and then maybe you need help on the last like 5 or whatever. So they were
Yeah.
more on the muscle though. It wasn't like I cared just to like, I just got to get it there. No, I wanted to make it so hard for my muscles. Like you just feel like you're just completely fatigued.
Yeah. Yeah, and with the equipped stuff, as far as like with powerlifting goes, raw is at a certain level of intensity, but then you take that to a completely different level when you hop in the equipment. Offers a lot of adrenaline, a lot of excitement, a lot of intensity. Bodybuilding, on the other hand, seems to be a little bit more, I don't want to say mundane, but a little bit more reserved than powerlifting. Did you still get the fulfillment from bodybuilding that you did from powerlifting?
Oh, I mean, no. I mean, it's totally different. I mean, like I can go till failure and dude, I'm telling you, it can hurt. When if I had you do a set and just I'm like, nope, you're not done. Keep going, keep going, keep going. I don't care. Like you might think you're done, and I'm having you do way more. You're gonna get done with that set, and you're gonna be like, holy shit, dude! I don't even think I can do another set like that again because you feel like it damn near killed you. Like, holy shit, I cannot even do that. So that is completely different than getting all the adrenaline, the hype, and getting like I don't know, I tried to do more of a controlled rage when I was powerlifting, to like inside, I was telling myself all this stuff and I was getting focused and dialed in, but it was for one rep. So it was everything for that one rep. And everything had to be perfect because if you get a little bit out of control, you're not going to get the weight with you're not going to get it up because you can't just muscle up that weight.
Yeah.
So you do have to be very precise and controlled and the rage all at the same time. So I like that. Not
Yeah.
that I like training like bodybuilding training. I do like training like that too, but it's just different and it's not the same as powerlifting. Because I mean, powerlifting is that weight. You go up to squat 1,000, 1,100 pounds. It's 1,000 or 1,100. So I don't care if you got gear on or not. Go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
Go for it. Let me know how it
Yeah.
goes. Like,
Yeah.
I don't care if you say the gear does it. All right, well, go do it then.
Yep.
The gear doesn't just do it like people probably think. And then a lot of those gear guys back then, I mean, it's like, what are you going to do? Even if you were strong raw, there was no raw meats given away or you could win big money at. The only way you could win big money is to do the gear. So, duh,
Yeah.
you're going to go where you can win big money and set world records. Like, that's what everybody wants to do.
Yep.
So, I
Yeah.
mean, Why
And
wouldn't you do that?
exactly. And I think there was a huge misconception. I mean, to this day about like, well, they're only strong because of the equipment. And it's like, well, I mean, even if you look at someone like George Halbert, I mean, it was like 625 or 645 that he benched at 220 or 242 raw. I mean, it looked like it was almost effortless. It's like, this is wild, dude. You know, I think it was Louis that said that you could put a bottle of test and a bench shirt on a on a bench and it's not gonna, you know, it's not gonna put up
Yeah.
any weight. You know, you still have to master that craft. And I mean, personally for me, I've only been in a shirt twice because I compete raw, but from my perspective, even just that brief period of time, it is so much harder. I can't even describe it. Like at least for me, the equipment was a completely different level of just technical precision that someone has to master versus raw.
Yeah, it's just different, you know, and I hated it when I first put a bench shirt on. I hated it. But like I'm like, well, what's my options? Because if you want a world record back then, it's like this is what you have to do.
Yeah.
So that's what I had to do. It wasn't so like right nowadays. It's like, oh man, we can lift raw, we can do single ply, we can do multi-ply. There's records in all one. It wasn't even like that. It was like people just cared about all time world record, and it was like everybody's wearing gear, so you better figure it out. So that's basically what you had to do.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And
that's what we did.
you've got to learn from some pretty brilliant people in the strength world. What would you say the biggest or most valuable piece of information that you got was from, let's say, Rick Hussey?
Rick, biggest thing is just weird, honestly. It's not what you probably expect. But what Rick knew, he knew training. You know, I could sit here and talk about as much training as you want to talk about. But really, what Rick knew, he knew how to train each individual mentally. So he knew what to say, when to say it to make you mentally be able to get it done. And that's a lot because what stops you from getting a lift a lot of times is your own head and it's what you think. He would even do dumb things like to some of the lifters because he could see their head, they were getting in their own head. And then he'd be like, hey, I know what's wrong with you. Put these shoes on. It's wrong. You got to have this heel on your shoe. Put the shoes on. Those are going to be way better. You're gonna get these lifts now. And they would believe it. And all of a sudden, they're they're fine. They were just getting in their own head. Like just dumb shit. He would just do dumb shit, but he knew what was going on in their head to say something stupid to make him do that.
Yeah.
Most people wouldn't think, "Hey, put your hand over here when you do that. When you squeeze that one harder, it'll lock out." Like dumb shit, he would say because he could see you were getting in your own head, you know?
Yeah.
But that a lot of people are that way. Like you can see them second guessing themselves. You can look at somebody in their eyes when they're in the meet day. I could look somebody in the eye and I could tell what's going on in their head. You could tell if they were believing in themselves or if they were second guessing themselves. You could just tell it's written all over their face if they're confident or not, you know? So Rick knew how to train people and push you, or maybe they're fine, but he knew how to get you to the next level and push you over the edge. He knew what you really wanted, you know, like if there's a number you really wanted, or he just knew what to say or what to do. And every person's differently because you can't say the same thing to some people because it might not motivate them if you say the wrong thing. And for him, though, he knew each person how they worked in their head and what to say to make them bring out their best, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. He
So it
sounds
wasn't
very cerebral. Yeah.
yeah, he just knew how to work with people like that, you know? He had his little system of what we're doing in training, you know, the singles up, double down, shit like that. You know, he knew boards. It was about 20, 25 pounds a board if we go up or down or whatever we're doing. He had his little, you know, training things that he went by. But I mean, come on, man. When somebody's firing you up and knowing exactly what to say to kind of get you going, I mean, how did you just lift more on that lift? Because you can take the 20, 25 pounds per board thing and throw it out the window if you got pissed off. Okay, so now we got to adjust things. So he knew how to get you like to work 100%, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's hard, like, sometimes it's hard for people to get a fire lit under their ass. And there's a multitude of ways to do that, depending on who you're working with.
Yes.
Someone you might need to really like bulldog down and kind of yell at him a little bit. Some other people, like you said, with the shoes thing, just need a little bit like that they didn't even know that's not even a real thing, but they think it's real.
Yeah.
So then they believe it. And you're like, hey,
Yeah.
it's salesman almost. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what he'd do. He'd just do weird, goofy stuff, man. And I'm just laughing at him because I knew what he was doing. I'm
Yep.
just thinking, holy shit, is this gonna work? And a lot of times it would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long did you guys work together for?
Almost 10 years, I'd say, I think that I was at Big Iron.
Damn, that's a
Yeah.
long time.
And as we got into the training, it's like me and Rick, our relationship obviously grew, and he just, we communicated better as a lifter and a coach together too. So he kind of, that helped, so he would know, okay, I can tell how he's feeling, and like he could ask me questions and know where I'm at, and that would help him better make calls for that day too.
Yeah.
Because, I'm in it, I'm involved. So, like, I'm emotionally involved. So, I'm not a good person to make my own judgments because I'm the lifter. Now, him, on the other hand, I might not, I might like be stubborn and I'm like, well, I don't care. I still got to do this today because of this. But he's like, "Ah, I can see things aren't moving as fast. So, like, maybe we're going to do it this way today instead of that way. And maybe if he wouldn't have been there to say that, I'd do something stupid. But he was smart enough to know, nah, we're going to do this and this will help you actually next week. And you'll come back next week and you'll even be stronger. But like I'm emotionally involved. So it's better to have like a coach like that that knows and he knows how you work. He can watch you. He's watched us for so long. He knows what's best. He knows what's best for you. So you just totally believe in your coach.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, I mean, it's a testament to a great coach is if they're able to make that connection with their client, and not just blanket like, oh, here's a program, and that's it. And then it's just kind of you
Yeah.
wash your hands of it. I'll talk to you next week.
No.
For long term success, that's just not a good formula, even probably for
And
short term.
he would watch the bar speed too, and he knew off of the bar speed about how much you had in you that day. And he could just tell off of all the lifters. So he knew what was going on by that bar speed. And he made calls based off of that bar speed.
Yeah.
And he knew what he was doing.
Yeah. And you had some pretty gnarly injuries over your career. What would you say when the hardest one to come back from was for you to bounce back?
Well, I heard something in my shoulder. I don't even remember. Like it was like a slap tear in my cartilage in my shoulder. So it wasn't like a major, like I tore. I mean, I have tore stuff off. I mean, honestly, since when I had most of my worst injuries after I got done, actually, I mean, I've tore both tricep tendons off, both bicep tendons. I had back surgery. I've had a bunch of stuff happen after powerlifting. While I was powerlifting, it was just like, man, torn dumb shit. Part of partial pec, obliques, growings, hamstrings, stupid stuff like that, but not complete tear off the bone stuff. The off the bone stuff is way worse. But like I did have this shoulder injury that literally I had to like start squatting like the bar. I had to start from like when I squatted that 1060, the last meet I did in gear, that 1060 that I squatted. That training cycle took so long because I hurt my shoulder at a meet in Kansas City and I couldn't even squat for like a month because I couldn't reach the bar and put my hand back there. So when I could, it was like I had to start back at a plate. And then the next week I could go to a plate and it wouldn't hurt so bad. And then I could maybe put a quarter or another plate on. And then that hurt pretty bad. But then every week, the weight I could go up and the last weight would hurt. But the weeks before the week that I did before that hurt, that one wouldn't hurt. It would be a new weight. Every time I put a new weight on my back, it would hurt. And then all the way through until I got back up to that 1,000 plus. It was like that whole training cycle. So it was really
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah. And when you did take a hiatus from powerlifting, you decided to step away. Was that more of a decision that you made on your own or more of a decision like your body kind of made for you?
Well, my body was kind of making that decision the last 2 years, and my hips and tendon IT band. I mean, like I tore my right when I got done, I tore my sartorius muscle, and I tore a tendon in my hip that came off. I did had some of those injuries right after, so those were probably the things that I'd been feeling the last 2 years of powerlifting, but like they just, but nothing came off yet, and it was just my body was telling me it was getting close, but like with Rick alive, I would have still lifted who knows how long. But I mean, the real reason I retired, I stopped in gear and powerlifting and then just doing it for fun. The real reason I stopped because I like doing it with Rick, and it felt way different not doing it with Rick. And I mean, I accomplished a lot of my goals, and I have kids and stuff, and it's like, what do I want to be able to like not play with my kids because I can't throw a ball, I can't do anything because my arms hurt. I mean, like I can't really do much because I'm so messed up from powerlifting. I can't even be active as a dad, and so I want to still be active. And so it was kind of it was time to just switch gears without Rick around.
Yeah.
So and do something different. And I also did want another challenge, something different. Like, I wanted to be able to say in my lifetime, like, I more than just power lifted. I'm not just a power lifter. I want to be able to experience and learn other things. In hindsight, 2020, I didn't know for sure I'd be owning a gym, and I didn't know I'd be training bodybuilders, and I didn't know that stuff. It was nice to learn. I learned a lot from Todd Smith, bodybuilding. He's the one that kind of took me under his wing and trained me for my first couple shows. And I learned a lot on the food, understanding how to dial it all in through him. And so, now I train bodybuilders, and, I'm able to be versatile, and just people like owning a gym, just regular clients that want to understand nutrition. I can give them good input on nutrition that makes sense. So, because there's so much out there, people don't know. There's so many different avenues. They're like, I don't even know what diet I should be on. And I want to also do it to something that fits people's lifestyle because everybody's lifestyle is a little different. So it was a it was a good thing to learn so much from so many different people. It's been a blessing to have a lot of people in my life that could teach me a lot of things. And now that brings me to where I'm at now. So it's been a
Yeah.
blessing, honestly.
Yeah. And when you made that transition, I know Dorian Yates talked about when he stopped competing, his identity was so just encapsulated by being a monster that it was so hard for him mentally. He fell into a depression. Just that transitionary period was extremely hard for him mentally. Did you experience any of that going from a world champion to kind of just transitioning to a different part of your life?
I was always the part that was probably really kind of weird for me, I guess. And it was like all I knew is I was always training for something. So that's kind of partially too when I stopped powerlifting, I needed to train for something because I didn't understand how to not train for something because I've always my whole life trained for something. So that's when like bodybuilding allowed me to still train for something. So I had a goal. I had a purpose of what I was doing. And I don't mean a life purpose, but like
Mhm.
something obviously in my life at that moment that I can aim for and have a goal. So like that helped me to still fulfill that part of it when I was done powerlifting and then do the bodybuilding. And then it took a while before I just kind of felt like, I didn't really feel that way anymore. Like I needed to do that. I just felt like, now I can just help other people powerlift. I can help other people learn how to bodybuild. And I trained alongside a lot of the guys like that I train with bodybuilding now. I mean, I've trained alongside of them for years. So I work out with them. So that kind of I get fulfillment out of still training that way. Um, and obviously, like I'm a lot older now too. So, you know, I'm 48 years old. It's like you kind of like gotta at some point when you're younger to where I'm at now, you kind of see things a little different. And you got to understand that, like now as a business and owning a business, and you kind of got to trade things, it's like I can't do some of the things I used to do, but I also have some things that I couldn't have back then. So it's kind of like a little trade. But the biggest thing is I still get to help people. And that's the main thing. Cause like for me, I mean, a lot of people look at, they want to, there's so many guys that want to talk tough and oh, we're badasses and we're whatever, power lifters, whatever. I don't really give a shit about that. Honestly, man, to be honest with you, my gym is literally where God has me for my mission field to help people in all areas of their life. But one of the biggest areas is for me, because I'm a believer. God put me here for a reason to help people, bring people to Christ. And that's where I'm at. And that is a big picture because someday we won't be here. And I like people to know where will they be when we're not here anymore. And I've had a lot of people in my life close to me that passed away. I've had a lot of people, friends and relatives. I've just had a lot of people pass that are close to me. So it's a big thing to know where you're going because like this isn't the end. There's more to it, and I want to be able to stand before God someday and to know that I did what I was supposed to do with what he gave me. And because I do that, honestly, God has literally blessed all the areas of my life. And he has blessed my gym because I view it that way and because I understand this is where he has me. But one of my big things at the gym is like, dude, I hate people that judge people. I hate it. Like, dude, I'll get pissed off, man. If people judge people, I hate that. So I'm not afraid to let them know. I'm not like, oh, you're a Christian, so like you're a weak little whatever. No, that doesn't work good for me either. Like, I'm like pretty set on like I'm not just like gonna pussyfoot around
Yeah.
stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna be a real person. I'm real. Just because people think, oh, you're a Christian, you're like a little pussy or something. Far from it, dude. I'm gonna tell you straight up things, and I'm not perfect, but like I care about people. I want to help people, but don't take that for weakness either, because that ain't gonna go good either. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I do have compassion for everybody. I think everybody should get a chance, And so, right now I do a men's group. I have a men's group on Tuesday nights every week, and dude, I have like all kinds of guys that have been, in prison, hooked on drugs, to successful business owners, but that just never had that fulfillment. They know they're missing something. Great lifters, great, and they are great in a lot of other areas, sports. They've been, I don't know, a lot of mixture of all kinds of different guys. But all of us sometimes feel like there's more out there that like I just feel like there's more and I'm not dipping into it. But I think when the way I look at it is if you were looking at an invention and somebody invented something and you came upon it and you're looking at this invention, like who would you ask what it is or what it does? You'd probably have to ask the person that made the thing, right? Well, that's like us. We're always asking, what is our purpose? What are we doing here? Well, God made us. So when we push into God and kind of talks back to us, but it's our job to go to him. He doesn't need us. We need him. But if we seek him, like the Bible says, if we seek him, we'll find him. So when we seek out to him, he will start to relay and show you things. He'll show you your purpose. And then you'll feel like a lot of completeness in you because God is showing you where he has and what he has for your life. And I mean, I know a lot of this probably sounds crazy to a lot of people that don't want to hear it, but I don't really care. You asked me to be on the podcast, so I'm going to tell this is about me.
You say
So,
whatever you want, dude.
so,
You can
so,
say whatever you want.
but I care about people and I want
Yeah.
the best for them and I want them to be happy. I don't want them to walk through life and feel like, well, I don't know if God's real or I don't know if this and that. Well, I don't know, man. Can I pray that the devil's going to get you tonight then? They'd probably be like, well, no, I don't want that. Well, it's like people don't believe, but then they kind of believe. They just don't know, and that's okay too. But
Yeah.
that's why it's our job to seek out what God has for us and to seek out what he says. Cause like, at least make a decision on maybe what you know. Don't make a decision on what you don't know. Maybe get into the word. I don't like, I don't go to a church and do things because of people. because people wreck things for everyone. Christians wreck things for everyone too. I mean, like, because they're a person. So like you can't really go off of a person. Like I had a bad incident with this person, and he said he's a Christian. So screw them. I hate Christians. It's like, okay, well, you powerlifted. I'm sure you had a run in with some dumbass powerlifter. You gonna never powerlift again? And it doesn't even make sense, right? It's like, what is your desire? You'll get out of it what your desire is. If your desire is to understand, and I want to know if there's a God and what He has for my life, and you want to seek it out to try to find it, then you'll probably find something. But if you don't want to, you're not going to do that. And God's not going to talk to you if you don't want to know. But so
Yeah.
anyway, the gym is a big mission field for me, man, and I'm trying to help a lot of people feel fulfillment in other areas, lifting, dieting, bodybuilding, their personal life, and just overall personal growth, whatever they're doing, man. I want them to feel good about whatever they're doing, and I want them to be blessed. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm doing, man. So
Just
that's
be
I
better.
feel fulfillment now. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I was actually, it's funny enough that you bring that up because I was talking to Pete Rubish yesterday, and he's a man of high faith as well. I had asked him because he had said that his health trajectory was on the decline, and he just had this sense of like impending doom, that he knew what he was doing was not going to garnish long-term results. And he was probably going to be another Dallas McCarver, someone that passed away a little bit too soon. And so he decided to come off all PEDs. His blood work, I think he said he got his blood work either before or while he was on, and it was just the worst you could ever imagine, horrendous. And he got off, cleaned himself up, and he feels like he has a new lease on life. And also part of that, perhaps would have been the tap on the shoulder that was like, hey, I'm going to give you a choice. I will tap you on the shoulder, but you have a choice here, and you can
Yeah.
make it, right? It's up to
Yeah.
you. But, having a higher responsibility, I think, is a very commendable thing. Having those principles,
Yeah.
and being rooted in that responsibility, I think is a really big deal that a lot of people are lacking nowadays. But I think that also is a kind of a testament to your character, because you don't set these world records without that type of discipline, without that type of mental fortitude. So I think that you've taken that in a very positive direction with the gym and what you're doing. Otherwise, you brought up a men's group. What does that entail, and what does that look like? What do you guys do?
I mean, the men's group is what I wanted. I mean, I am not even the type of person to like run this group. Like, I just feel like God was like, man, men are out there that don't talk about anything because that's just what we do. We don't talk about stuff. We just try and take it upon ourselves. And whatever it is that's going on, every single day, we just get it done. Don't complain and shut up and just get it done. And you know what I mean? That's just how we are, you know?
Yep.
But there's a lot of people that go through a lot of stuff, with having the gym. I've had a lot of people come up to me and was like, I've had men come up and say, you know what, man, if this gym wasn't here, there's several times I had one guy, he's like, I had two guys, two different guys, both tell me, they were contemplating committing suicide, but like one had a gun in his mouth and he was sitting there and in front of the TV and he goes, I wanted to pull the trigger so bad, but I thought, you know what? I'm just going to go down to the gym and I know somebody will talk to me. But he didn't tell him what was going on. But like, it's a place where like somebody's going to talk to you. Somebody's going to like maybe get you to think a little different. But he just like, but some people just need somebody to talk to and they're not even going to tell you that stuff that's going on. Another guy, same thing, And he's like, I only have me and my dog, man. That's what I got.
Yeah.
And, I've sat there, and this guy lost a real close friend of his and he to suicide. He came to my gym and he committed suicide and his buddy, his relative, he lived right across the street from him. I mean, it was hard for him because he doesn't really have anybody and he's got his dog and him and and he's like he thought about it several times and he had been through a lot, he's prior service, went through Desert Storm, been, at war himself, like had to, kill people and
Yeah.
he's got to live with some of that stuff, and then his family kind of got deserted as a young kid. And, rough life, and that was his relative across the street that he had to go through life, and now he's gone, and he's like, but he comes to the gym, and he trains with me every day. And he's like, I need this every day in my life, man, because this helps me get by every day. And him helping other young men. This guy I'm talking about, he owns a large business, dude. He owns two large businesses, and he makes a lot of money. He makes plenty of money, so he doesn't even care about the money. And he's still not. Still wasn't happy. It wasn't that completeness. He needed completeness, even more from God. From He needed to feel like he tied into a group. He needed to have a purpose of helping other young men. And so, like, we get a lot of great people, but like the gym reaches a lot of people. But he knew he could come to the gym, and he had a place that he could be used and accepted both, and that he was heard and he's important to us. So anyway, this men's group ultimately is just a group of guys that can get together. I talk about my faith. I don't force people to talk about theirs, but I am going to talk about faith. So it does become about faith because I talk about it. And a lot of the guys in there, they want something more, and they are willing to, like, I want something more from God. And so, like, things are so simple and we make it hard. I'm like, well, if we want more from God, and the thing about church sometimes is, it's like you go to church and, they maybe ask you to give your life to God or if you'd like to. And sometimes you do, and then they don't know what to do after that. Like, well, what am I supposed to do now? Like, I don't freaking know. Like, they're happy for me, but I don't know what to do because I don't understand that yet. Well, what I want to do is, like, if you come in and you give your life to God, I feel kind of responsible to kind of mentor you, man. And like, okay, man, it's like coming in the gym. I don't want to just pull up in the gym and finally this dude has been scared to come to the gym. He finally comes in. It's like, all right, good luck, dude. He doesn't know what to do. Our job to do is to, like, take these men and be like, okay, man, let's work on these things this week. Let's work on these things this week. Let's attack these things so we can get stronger, because it's just like an army, man. We got to build like an army of strong men, mentally, spiritually, and physically, right? So, like, what are we going to do, man? We need to understand, physically how to be strong, mentally and spiritually. But like spiritually is like a huge thing that people don't understand. So like we talk about a lot of different issues, but I like everybody to talk. It's not like a one person's going to talk and we're all just going to sit there and listen to somebody. I'm like, you're going to come to the group, man. We're all going to be involved and talk about stuff together, just like me and you talking right now. We all get to talk, and we're all going to learn from each other. And like iron sharpen iron, we all are going to sharpen each other. But one thing we're going to do is we're going to be real. So, like, I don't give a shit who comes to the group, man. You can say whatever you want, and we're going to be real about it, because there's not a lot of those. I see a lot of fake guys, like, "Oh, I'm a Christian, so I'm going to talk like I'm a Christian. I'm going to act like this certain person." But you walk outside, you're completely different. If I cuss, I'm going to cuss right now, I guess. I'm just going to be real. Obviously, I know God's going to work in me to change, but like, I'm at least going to be real. Nobody talks a certain way like I hear some people talk. I'm like, dude, that ain't fucking real. There's no way you talk like that and act that way at home. That's like, I need real stuff in my life. I can't have
Yeah.
phony stuff.
Yeah.
And I can deal with real, even if it's whatever it is. But
Yeah.
I just can't deal with like fake stuff. So I want men to be able to come to a place where they can be real, not be judged, and feel like they actually fit in. And then we pray for people. We do different challenges every week. Like, every week we might just come up with a different challenge to do outside of the group, because you can do things in the group, but like, if we're supposed to be like able to go outside that room and be the same way as we are in the room. If we're only this person in the room, then just beat it. Like, let's be who we are all the time. And if we're trying to be better, let's do it outside of here too. Let's not act phony in here and not that way out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we're trying to build stronger men, mentally, physically, and spiritually.
Yeah, and a lot of that will feed into the gym, especially feeding into other aspects of your life, giving you that discipline, giving you that hard work. Like you said, iron sharpens iron. A lot of that starts in the gym. If your body is not healthy, your
Yep.
mind will not be healthy, you know?
Yes.
So speaking to that, even at your age right now, you are absolutely jacked. So what is your training look like? Whether you think so or not, I know you're humble, but let me tell you, man, you are jacked, bro, by any age group. So what does your training look like right now? How are you training?
I mean, I just train still like a bodybuilder, honestly. I do some high volume. I train how my body tells me what I get to do every day. Like if I'm feeling strong, I might lift something heavy. If I'm feeling like something's beat up or whatever, I gotta listen to my body. I'm old enough to understand like I gotta listen to my body because I can't just train heavy all the time because that's gonna give me a shorter time frame of training. If I train smarter, I'll be able to train longer, and especially at this level because I still like to get intense and train hard. So but I can't just go in there and be like, I'm training hard and heavy. I'm training heavy for the next 2 months. I'm training heavy every week. Like my body doesn't allow me to do that. I got to train heavy when my body says you're feeling pretty good, and if you're not feeling that great, let's do some higher volume stuff. And I got to learn to train around how I feel. But I'm able to push myself hard every time I train. It just depends on how I'm going to do it. It's going to depend on what my body's feeling like. So, I mean, I train like a bodybuilder. That's what I train like.
Yeah. Yeah. And some people, based on their leverages, genetics, whatever, a certain lift will call to them like a duck to water. With you, I mean, you're pretty freaking well rounded with the multiply 7, 8, and 10. Did any lift particular call to you, or did you enjoy one lift more than the other? Like you prefer to squat, prefer to bench? Anything that really got you freaking hyped one lift over the other?
I mean, honestly, like benching just was the easiest for me. Benching came easiest. So it wasn't as much. I mean, I'm not saying it wasn't a challenge, but it wasn't as much of a challenge. So I was probably like, could have tried harder at it. But like deadlift and squat took longer to figure out. So those two were more of a challenge to me. So I wanted to conquer the things that were harder. And some things are like, our limbs. It's everything's leverage. So, like deadlifting with a little shorter arms and like how I'm built, deadlifting was, if you had like long fingers and your long arms, I mean, it's leverage. So a lot of people don't understand, like, okay, well, watch how far this person pulls the bar and look at their body position. Even for when they grab the bar, what they can lock before they even move up. I can lock my back all I want, but I'm going to be leaned over in a
Yeah.
different position than some guys. Doesn't matter how I do it. So it's all leverage, but there wasn't really one that I really, I guess, enjoyed more than the other. I just like challenge all the time. Squatting, I ended up kind of figuring out, and so did I kind of did. I was on a great roll with my deadlift. I wish I would have pulled 800 that last meet because I pulled 780, and Rick wanted me to pull 800, but I was like, Rick, if I pull 780, which I know I'm going to pull, I'll total 2715. If I go right to 800, I will be under 2700, and I don't want to risk it. I don't want to risk it because I didn't know at that time too that would be my last real meet.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. So I'm like, let's not be picky about it. Let's just hit that 780. I know I'll get that. Hindsight 2020. If I
Yeah.
knew that was my last meet ever, I would have went for 800 for sure.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
and it felt pretty easy pulling the 780s.
Yeah, I mean, and your conditioning and stamina to endure and perform throughout a meet is 0 to none, obviously, from the numbers you put up. Besides the accessory bodybuilding movements that you added into addition, did you do any conditioning work, like any sled work or anything like that?
No, I worked outside for my job all the time.
Yep.
So like, I didn't do any of that stuff, man.
Yeah.
No, like I know Westside does a lot of that kind of stuff. I
Yeah.
never did any of that stuff. No.
And how long did you prep for a meet traditionally? Was it like 12 weeks, 16 weeks, or was it something kind of that was abrupt? You're like, I feel strong now, let's go.
No, we usually train about 10 weeks for a meet, but we were always training. So it's like, I mean, with like Rick, we were always training for a meet, always. So it's like you might do a meet and then like, okay, you got a couple weeks of 2 to 3 weeks, and we're training for another meet. Like we never like had like a month off or you're always training for a meet, literally always. So like we did a lot of meets.
Yeah. And what would you say? This is a question that I've asked a few other people. If you could train with one person, whether they have passed away or are currently alive, in your prime and in their prime, who would you train with and why?
Probably Rick.
Yeah.
Because he was my coach, man, and one of my best friends, I would
Yeah.
love to train with Rick when he was, and I'd like to totally give him a ton of shit because he gave us a ton of shit. So I'd love to just dish it back with him, be able to train with him, both in our prime and just give him so much shit. I'd love that.
That's awesome. That's funny you say that. Anthony Oliveira said the same thing. He said Rick Hussey because he was on the other side of it. He was with
Yeah.
Lou and he's like, I know this system, I know this side, so like I wanted to experience the other side. What's on the other side of the fence? So I thought that was a really interesting answer. For right now, your clients, would you say you have more general, just like fitness, trying to stay healthy clients, more bodybuilders, more powerlifters? How does your clientele look?
My clientele looks like, man, my goal when I got into this, I trained so many powerlifters, I trained so many people, all different, all over the place, and I made my money by personal training people, and my membership wasn't as much. And my goal was always to have my membership up, and then I could choose the people I want to train. And now that's where I'm at. So now I got really blessed to have a great amount of members. I really don't train a whole lot of people. I train just specific people now. So, like, honestly, one of my favorite ones to train is this gal that's a little over 60 years old. She's like my mom, but when I opened my gym, her and her husband were one of my first clients, and I trained both of them for probably, I don't know, like 5 or 6 years. And he got cancer, trained him through cancer for a couple of years. And then he ended up passing away. It's like Rick. And I kind of just took her under my wing. She's like my mom. She's just sweetest lady ever. She got to retire, so she's retired. So she works at the gym. And
That's
so,
awesome.
like, literally, man, she is like, I don't know what I'd do without her. She takes care of all my stuff, man. I mean, every payment, right now, I don't even, whatever emails just came in, she's already on them. She is handles all my everything.
Yeah.
So literally, she's like my personal secretary slash mom.
Yeah.
And I train her every morning, and I love doing that because she's just awesome. And then I have a couple other people like I choose to train, like that want to do shows. I got a couple people training to do shows right now. I got like 3 people that are getting ready to do shows, but half of the time I just tell them to work out with me because
Yeah.
I don't want to personal train. I'm like, just train with me,
Yeah.
and you can just train when I train. So, and then the power lifters, I've always trained the power lifters, but I don't have to train like people all day no more. I just train who I want to train and when I want to train them, and it's kind of nice, man.
Yeah.
So it's not like it used to be. Like it used to be like hardcore training, man. I had all these power lifters that would come in, and then I'd have like all these. Honestly, I trained a bunch of ladies too, because they like to spend money and they pay you. And I did whatever it took to like make the gym established to do what it does. And now I can just train who I want. So I do like training bodybuilders, power lifters, but and then that gal I was telling you about, her name's Deanne. She's awesome, and I train her, and a couple other people that just I've trained for a while. But so it's a
Yeah.
little different. It's not what people would expect, but it took a while to get to this point to where I can only train the people that I want. But what I like to do now is I'll go into the gym in the evenings and stuff, and we get a lot of new people all the time, and I'll just help all kinds of people, and just help them do, like, learn things that they don't even have to pay for. I just go over and help people and show them how to do things, and just bullshit and talk to people and hang out, man. That's my job. I get to hang out and show people stuff for free because they're just members of mine, and I appreciate them. So I can just help people. So that's what I do.
Yeah. Speaking of newer people, if you had to give a piece of advice to someone that came and said, hey, Shawn, I want to get into equipped lifting. I want to set a world record. What do I do? How do I go about something like that?
Well, I mean, at that point, if they're going to get in gear, they need to understand how gear works. So, like, you know, it wouldn't matter if it's single ply, multi-ply, whatever, but like getting them in any piece of gear and like starting to train them. And then they need to get with somebody that has executed gear. You can't just like get in and think you're going to figure it out on your own. it's gonna go way faster if you can get with somebody that has been in gear and not only competed just in gear, but they really understand the gear. You know, like gear is goofy, man. You know,
Yeah.
it's goofy, man. So it's like you got to get with a person that understands gear, that's good at it, proven themselves. They're really good. Now there's everybody online that can train you. They've done one powerlift to me and they can train you to be your best. And it's like, holy
Yeah.
shit, dude. You haven't lifted anything yet. Like you don't even know what the hell's going on here. Like you got
Hmm.
to get with somebody that really, really knows the gear because you'll go so much faster with somebody that can tell you how to use the gear.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like nowadays everyone is a coach. It's like, oh, I did one meet, I pulled
Yes.
405. And it's like,
Yeah.
dude, come on. Like,
Yeah. They
I'm not
can.
trying to be too judgmental here, but it's
Yeah.
like, can we get some stake in the game before
Yeah.
we tell other people how to do it? Can we kind of do something ourselves? That's one of the reasons why, I reached out to Pete like 4 years ago because I was like, this guy, he's a legend. He's done what he's done. He knows what he's doing. Obviously, I'm gonna go where the best is. So that's the route that I decided to go. Of the three, the squat suit, the bench shirt, and the deadlift suit, which was the hardest for you to learn?
For me, probably squat suit. Probably the squat suit. Being just so many different things, knowing where to have the pressure on your feet, to how to set your hips once you break, how to get your knees, how strong to set the straps. I mean, all that stuff.
And
Have it.
what was your favorite squat suit to compete in? What did you use?
Man, I squatted in that Leviathan, man, and I just stuck to it. It worked for me. I was blessed to have a sponsorship. John Inzer sponsored me, with Inzer, and I just stayed with him, man, because it worked. I had it figured out, and why go anywhere else? He had the best gear, man. So I stayed with him. He had the best gear, and I stayed with John, man.
Yeah,
Inzer was just awesome, man.
yeah.
They were awesome to work with, man. Anytime I needed anything, man, John was on it, man. They shipped stuff out to me. So I mean, what more could you ask for? The best equipment, and they were on top of it.
And did you use? I think it was on one of the PL USA covers. You had a Rage X on. Was that the shirt that
Yep.
you were using the most?
Yep. I use the Rage X. Yep.
Did
That's
you
what I
use any of
use.
his other shirts, the SDP, any of those other ones, or just mainly the X?
Just mainly that one.
Yeah,
I started getting into the super duper phenoms, and I was blowing them out and stuff. So the Rage X for me worked really well. But I just needed to give the other one more time, and maybe that one would have worked well too. But that was just coming on.
yeah,
And I was just kind of getting out of it. So they obviously work great because I mean that's what people are using now,
yeah,
like Dave and Hoff, and.
yep,
So like they're. I mean, it's all great gear. You have to figure that out too. I
right,
just knew how I liked that shirt, exactly how I liked it.
yep. And as far as like breaking in a shirt goes, a lot of people have issues with that. What would you say the best way to break in a shirt is?
I think with breaking it in shirts, I think it depends on what shirt you're using because, like, with those super duper phenoms, I know, like, Ryan, he would have a shirt for each board. And eventually those get looser or they wear a little bit different. So, like, eventually what you could barely get to a three board as you wear it, you're going to be able to get to a two. And then the two is going to be able to eventually be to the one. And then pretty soon that shirt's going to be a full range shirt for you. He had a shirt for like literally each board. And then, but this is for someone that's sponsored. So like
Yeah,
that would be hard for like, I got 6 shirts, man, and I got one for each board. And it's
yep.
like, it gets a little crazy,
I got a big credit card bill.
Yeah. Yeah. But like, that's kind of how he was breaking in those super duper phenoms.
Yeah,
And so like if you could do it that way, because you're asking that I would do it that way that he's doing it.
yep,
But like for me, Ray Jackson's, they hold up for a long time. They're just
yeah,
really hard to touch in. So if you're built with long arms, it might be a little harder shirt for you.
yeah,
You want to have a little bit shorter arms and learn that like I was telling you, coming stepping down the stairs with your elbow type technique
yep,
for that.
yeah.
So
Nice. And with opening up Big Iron, what motivated you to do that? Was that part of like carrying on the name, the legacy of not only Hussey, but the brand itself? Was that something that you just knew you were always going to do, or you came to a part in your life where you were like, this is it, this is what I'm going to do?
No, Rick had talked to me before he passed, and he wanted me to keep when he was alive. He's like, "Hey, let's get the Sioux City Big Iron started." Like, it's weird, when people are about to pass, they must know it or something. Because he was like, "Let's get Sioux City Big Iron going." And I'm like, "No," I'm like, That's not a thing. There's your big iron.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing right now, Rick. We're doing that. And I just wasn't really interested in that. I was interested in lifting at big iron for Rick. So, but he wanted to do that. And then shortly around that time, he passed right after that. So I really wanted to keep it going, keep Rick's legacy alive. That's why we've done a Rick Hussey memorial meet ever since he's passed. We've had that meet every year. And so that's for Rick. It's for Rick. And then I just realized too how God has put this as a mission field for many people. And that's what it is. It's about other people. It's not about really what I can get out of it. It's what I can give to others. And this is a platform where I can give to a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely. And with Rick's legacy being kind of continued through you, do you feel kind of like an obligation to, I don't want to say perform at a certain level, but do you have certain expectations of yourself that you set in kind of memoriam of Rick?
Yeah, I mean, the demeanor of the gym is a big deal to me. So, like when I said, nobody's going to get judged walking in here. Oh, yeah, I get crazy about that. Nobody likes to be judged. And, that's like a big deal. I want it to be a place for anybody that wants to be here, man. They can get accepted. And so that's like a huge deal because I feel like a responsibility, like of Big Iron, that this is Big Iron, man. Like this is what Rick established. So yeah, I do feel like to hold that up is like a huge deal for me, you know, because
Is
he
he,
trusted me. Obviously, he trusted me and he wanted me to do this for some reason.
yeah.
So like you got to do it to the best of your ability and it's got to be right. It's got to be done right, So that's the way I try to do it.
And do you guys have that competitive atmosphere in your gym as well that they had back in Hussey's gym as well?
I mean, when powerlifting was at like the high, even in my place, because we had a lot of the guys, some of them have retired now that were at the high level, high level. Yeah, it was just different. I don't know. It was competitive, but it was just different. We everybody pushed each other to be their best, but obviously they're competitors. So yeah, but it was just different. I don't know how to explain it. It just felt different. But it was still great. I mean, we had some great lifters, man, that raw. I trained a lot of raw guys forever. That's what we really trained, a lot of raw. And then the last, I don't know how many years, 4 or 5 years, we got into some gear. But for a long time, they only trained raw. I trained raw lifters forever.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you were competing, there's some variances in motivation that people have. Some people just want to set PRs. Other people are like, I don't care if I PR or not at this meet, as long as I win, that's all I care about. So for you, what motivated you to compete at that high level? Was it winning? Was it just PRs yourself, world records?
No, it was, well, for one, Rick's my coach, and I want to make sure he knows that I'm giving it 100%. So I'm listening for him. So, you know, I kind of look at it like God put this together for a reason. So I need to do it 100% because God allowed me to do this. And He knew my heart's desire was I wanted to be one of the best. My heart's desire was I wanted to be one of the best powerlifters. And then He lined it up for it to be able to happen. So I didn't want to take it for granted. And I also wanted to please Rick and the rest of my team, like I wanted our team to feel like, we're the best. So it wasn't just like about an individual, You don't see a lot of teams lift like they used to. It's more individual stuff, but I don't know. We had a really close team, We did a lot of stuff together and traveled everywhere together. So, It's like another family.
Yeah, do you think that that's something that's missing from powerlifting today, the crew
Yeah,
aspect and
yeah, I
mentality?
do.
Yeah,
Yeah, man. I mean, like people don't understand how cool it was to just do all that stuff together, man. It was cool. That was like my family, man. That was like my second family, if not my first. I mean, because I spent more time with them than I did with my own family a lot. But I mean, we were training all the time, so I mean, you're gonna spend more time with them because that was what we did all the time back then.
yeah. I feel like the crew aspect of powerlifting that's missing today is something that's very important in the sport, because when you have a crew and you have a group of people that you care about, or a gym or a cause that you care about that's much greater than yourself, you're able to be selfless rather than
Yeah.
selfish. You know,
Yeah.
you're focused on, how can I give back to my training partner? How can I give back to my gym? Rather than just like, what can powerlifting give me? How much money can I make from powerlifting? How many
Yes.
fucking social media posts can I fucking get from this fucking
Yeah.
brand or that brand? And it's like, I don't know, man. It just seems so void of any substance, today
Yeah.
versus, at least what I was coming up on. I
Yep.
think a lot of that is missing, but I guess things change. Sometimes things, don't change for the better, but I think everything comes in cycles. And personally, I've been seeing a reemergence of the equipment in powerlifting. I've been seeing a little bit more of it than I was in the past. So I think that, there is some cycle coming back with the equipment. I do think it's
They
starting to
just
pick
need
up.
to get they need to hold some meets that they need to hold some big meets. I mean, dude, if there was a meet right now and they're gonna give away like 60, 70 grand in a multi-ply meet, people would figure it out.
Yeah.
But there is none of those. But there's meats that they're giving away cash and raw meats. So that's where they're gonna go.
Yeah.
And some
Yeah.
of these raw guys, if they knew they could win that kind of money in a multi-ply meet, maybe they'd switch over, but it's gotta be worth it.
Yeah.
They ain't gonna do it for no reason. It's gotta be worth it. Like, we're not doing it for $3,000. Are you kidding me? Like, what? I mean, geez, it costs 1,000 to travel anywhere and do a meet practically if you travel,
Yeah.
you know? So
Yeah.
like, a couple nights hotel, food. I mean, you're gonna spend, like it's gotta be worth it. But if they had a big money meetup for multiply, I think then you'd see like somebody's gonna want to win all that money. So you have to go over there to do it, you
Yep.
know?
Yeah. I agree.
So
One last thing I want to touch on. We touched on the other two lifts, but your deadlift, just shy of 800 pounds. What was something that you did to build that 700 plus deadlift?
well, that cycle that Al kind of put together, I mean, it really was like, if it's getting off the floor is the problem, we did a lot of volume of deficit pulls, but it transitioned. So, like, the program would transition from a weak point to mid, and then you end up like doing the full movement the last like you do like a blocks, you do block periodization, almost like, all right, we're going to do 4 weeks of this, 4 weeks of this, and 4 weeks of this. So like some, say the first or whatever, I'm just saying, depends on how many weeks you had to train,
Yeah.
obviously is what the blocks would be. But you would start working on those harder areas, harder work areas. So like you might be on deficit pulls, and then you might be in some reverse band pulls, but it might be like at the top where like you might do it with the bands, but like by the time you're locking out, the band's not even touching the bar anymore. Also, it gets you training that top end. And then the last block might be just full pulls off of the floor in your gear, just to get the whole carry through of what you just worked on those 2 blocks. And then depending on the other movements, like you'd be doing like, for your core work and hip work, you'd be doing other supplementary exercises also to help you. So you might go extra wide pulls too, where like a sumo, extra wide sumo to build your hip strength up even more, or walking lunges with the bar, or, like there's other exercises that you would do to strengthen your weak areas, but it's all like you got to figure out first. And this is what Rick did too. He had to figure out where everybody's weak spots were. And then wherever you're weak at, if you understand how to make them strong, then your lifts can always go up. But your weak point might change over time. It might go to somewhere else. Then you need to know how to make it strong there so it can keep going up. So it's literally always training your weak points can always make you stronger.
And for you, what was I would say your biggest weak point that you identified that was like, okay, and how did you correct that in any of the 3 lifts?
Biggest weak point? I don't know, man. I just would get injured, like strained all the muscles in my lower back or something, and be like,
Yeah,
shit, man, I got to get this thing off the floor better. I mean, it would move around, but like for a while, I could get anything off the ground, and then it was just locking it out that would be hard. So what it forced me to do is also learn body position. So like I had to even maybe start the movement different, so I could end up in a different position than when I would fail. Does that make sense?
yeah, yep,
So
yep,
like I'd have to make sure my body was in a certain position by the time I got like say mid through the lift, or if I was out of position, I would miss it.
yeah,
So I
yeah,
just understood how to keep my body in a better position when
yeah.
I was doing things.
That
I would
totally
say
makes
like
sense.
deadlifting.
Yeah,
Like deadlifting when I would do it conventional, it's like I would be in a position, lock, get it up to about my knees. I could pull it right off the floor. I'd get to my knees and I'd be like, shit, my hips are too far away from this bar. And I'm in a position where I just can't get it. And I would learn to be leaned a little bit forward and a little bit rounded, which sounds wrong, where I could undo like a rack pull. When I got in that position, then I could lock it out. But I might move it off the floor just a tad bit slower, but it allowed me to be in a better position so like I could do like a rack pull and then I could finish it.
yeah, that makes sense. That
Weird
totally makes
things like
sense.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. There's also a lot of like paralysis by analysis, right? Like when you're focused on so much, you're just not able to freaking execute the lift. At the end of the day, that's all it's about, you know. But Shawn, man, thank you for the time. It's been freaking awesome talking to you. Why don't you plug some of your social medias where people can find you, the gym?
Just Shawn Frankel's Big Iron Gym. I got a website there. You should be able to find me there. So
Awesome,
and I
dude.
got Instagram. I got a Shawn Frankel's Big Iron Gym Instagram and then my personal both. So you can find me on those too.
Awesome. Right on, bro. I appreciate all the time, all the wisdom. It was very nice talking to you. Very nice meeting you.
No, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate sharing.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. All right, man.
All right. Take care.
See ya.